Hey guys, it's BlockchainBrad, and as always, it is freaking awesome to be with you in the blockchain and crypto space. Guys, today we're going to be talking about Elastos. And if you're not familiar with what that is actually a really revolutionary, really exciting project. It's a really exciting development for Neo, and we're going to be talking about that in the context of Stellar, of Neo, and obviously in the Elastos collaboration we saw with the meetup. So we're going to be talking about that also, because on November the 30th there was a meetup in San Francisco, and that released some very important information that I want to unpack with you. So I'll be doing that through a PowerPoint, going through point by point what I thought was some really good information for you. Before we do that, I want to say a massive thank you to one person. His name is Algaboo on Twitter. So his handle is @Algaboo, and you can see it's also to the moon. The reason is that he was in New York at the meetup and he met Da Hongfei. And during the meetup, he actually mentioned me, and they were talking about some of the things I've been talking about with ontology, Neo, and many aspects of Neo dApps. And Da Hongfei recorded, as many of you would have seen, and we're planning on having an interview together. And that's all because of Algaboo. So, mate, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You're a champion, and without you I wouldn't have been able to do that. And I'm hoping that I'll either fly to China and have that interview, or we'll do it through some sort of well-structured question plan that will involve the community with, so that we can get some key information and answers that we would like to from Da, who is the superstar of Neo anyway. So thank you very much to Algaboo. I really appreciate it. And if you haven't been to his site, certainly look him up. You can see him right here. That's his handle, Algaboo, and to the moon. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. The next thing I want to talk about in the context, I just wanted to explain how this video will work, is that I'm going to do it in two parts. So you'll see two different sort of foci in the information. The first part is going to be unpacking very important information from Chen Rong, and he is the lead architect and of Elastos. And we're going to look at that, look at sort of the developments of that, what it is, and then on the second part we're going to look at some really important research I've found that alludes to connections between Elastos and other major enterprise, including on-chain. So that'll be the second video, guys, in this presentation. So what is Elastos? Let's get stuck into it. Elastos is essentially an operating system. And it was co-founded by Mr. Han Feng, and he is a very important person because obviously he has very significant connections with other sort of mainstay stakeholders in the blockchain space, but he's also a very smart guy and he knows a great deal about the system. And then the other person I want to be talking about a lot today is Chen Rong. And Chen Rong is key because he is the person who was the speaker at the meetup, and he can articulate many of the fundamental ideas of and premise behind Elastos, and more importantly talk about where they are at positioned in terms of releasing it to the to Neo on Neo to the world. So what is it? Elastos is the world's first internet operating system that uses the internet as the base layer infrastructure rather than an application. So obviously things like Microsoft's systems, they are an application that's designed to run on a larger framework, but what Elastos does, it is the base layer of the infrastructure. So it's quite unique in that respect. And it's utilizing Neo as a platform. So the Elastos approach emphasizes that the network communication should be separate from application computing and prohibits application programs from direct access to the network to eliminate most viruses and attack. I'm going to be talking more about that at length when we talk about exactly what Chen has said in the presentation at the meetup. But essentially what he means here is that by eliminating the aspect of the internet, it frees up all of that concern for virus attack, for malware, to really sort of destroy the integrity of the system. And so they've done something that's revolutionary in that respect, and it separates it from Ethereum. And we're going to explain how and why in a moment with the presentation. So if you want to know more, that was a really good article from Steemit, and I will post all the links for you if you want to know more about what Elastos is. But essentially think of it in the context of two things. Think of it as an operating system, as a blockchain-driven operating system, but then also think of it in the context of what they call in Chinese yun, which means cloud. And you can see even on their own website, and this is a brilliant website, I encourage you to go and have a look, is that the statement is also to the cloud, blockchain-driven internet. They are moving away from redressing the need for dApps on blockchain to opening it up to a much more robust application potential through clouds. And so when we talk about Yuan, that's the imperative. And if you do enough research, you'll see that there are serious players, not just in China but in the world, doing really important cloud software research and preparing for things like this. So the reason why this is so revolutionary is it's the platform for cloud technology related to blockchain, and it's been 17 years in the making. So this is something that really could potentially be as big as Microsoft. Without trying to FOMO the market, I'm trying to sort of paint a picture of what exactly Elastos is, because many people don't quite get the connection between that and the cloud. And that'll also make the connection to Stellar much clearer, because up until this presentation, I was sort of moving more towards the idea of speed being the premise for their use, because Stellar is a very fast network. It's a very fast blockchain in its protocol design. But actually, the imperative is, my apologies, I've got my dog. But the imperative is actually more to do with its peer-to-peer network. So if you want to know more about how Elastos works, go and check out Elastos as the website, because it's brilliant. They also have white papers, and I'm going to show you a bit of a link between that, and also they have the announcement section, and in that part there's really good articles there that you can go and research, and I've used some of that to present in my PowerPoint as well. So let's get into the actual resource library. Linked into the website, you can access key information and key data and key articles, and if you want to go and do that, that's what I did, and it'll give you a much clearer insight into how Elastos is going to sort of address some of the issues of lack of operating system in blockchain, and how they're going to do that through direct modes and direct streams, like through to websites, through to mobiles. It's going to operate very differently through this peer-to-peer system. So here's the really robust 22-page long Elastos white paper, and if you haven't read it, it's really good, it's really comprehensive. I'm not going to go through all of that now, because that's something you can do in your own time, but I used this as a sort of a means to prepare some of the notes. So if you haven't had a look, it's a great read, and it'll help you understand more about the operating system plan and design that Elastos is. So let's talk about the meetup, because this is where you get some really good quality information, and you can access this meetup information because it was live and it's available on YouTube. But there were some really important speakers, and one of them obviously was Da Hongfei, who is the CEO of OnChain and of Neo. But also there was Chen Rong, and Chen Rong, as I said before, he's a professor of cyber intelligence and economy, and he works at the Tsinghua University, and he is an expert in blockchain. He is the person who has proposed the idea and planned the idea and created Elastos from the ground up, and he's worked on it for several years, for 17 years. The other person to mention here is Jed Caleb, who Da was joking about as potentially Satoshi Nakamoto, but what's really important here is that Jed was a founder of Ripple, he is the founder of Stellar, and he is collaborating because of a peer-to-peer network system. He sees the potential of both Neo as the platform, of Elastos as the operating system for applications, and the provision that Stellar's going to provide is that peer-to-peer network to make it all fit together. So very cool stuff. In terms of the announcement, as I said, direct link here. This is where I got all my articles from. My information rather is from these articles. If you want to go there, I'll put it all down in the links below as well, so you don't have to look anywhere. Now let's get to the team members, or the key members and the council. Now right here you can see, my apologies, I'll just go straight to it. You can see that on this website there are some key people involved, and you've got in one picture there, you can see that there's Chen with the glasses. He is the architect. Then you have Han Feng, he is also a co-founder, and then you have let me just check, but I have seen him, he was at the Blockchain Expo. That's Yu, another really important co-founder. And then you have the superstar, who is the founder of the Chinese, it says here, the Chinese Bitcoin community early members. So that's important, because I'll unpack that in part 2. But also, he's the CEO of OnChain, CEO of Neo, and he's directly related to Elastos because obviously the Neo contract, and that Elastos is going to be supported by the ecosystem, by the Neo ecosystem. Okay, so the next thing is, we talked about the council, seen their relationships there. Let's get straight to the YouTube. Now this was brilliant, and I'm going to show you a little bit, but I would like to plug two really important people, and I'll just make sure his name and logo is there for you. But you can see here, Chico Crypto Consultants. Now I've been sort of in communications with Tyler ever since I started, because I always noticed that he was someone who would speak well of Neo, and he spoke with educated position on it. And he organised with Peer Atlas to have a live stream, so I want to say a massive shout out to both of you guys. Thank you, Colin from Peer Atlas, for helping organise this. Thank you, Tyler from Chico Crypto Consultants, because without you we wouldn't have had this information, and it was very key to helping better understand the interconnection between Stellar, which was always a bit unclear to me. I was again always thinking more about the speed capacities of Stellar and some other really good assets that they bring to the blockchain space, but this is what it is. So I'm going to play you this very briefly, and I'm going to go and unpack it with the PowerPoint that I've prepared. So just listen to this small excerpt, because this is really important, guys, because we want to separate our thinking from Ethereum. There are so many reasons why Neo is distinct. It's its own structure. It has a very different ecosystem in its design. It is an ecosystem, a blockchain network of different components, whereas Ethereum is actually going to be building dApps upon and inside its network, in its blockchain. So listen to this, and then we'll talk about it.
And the dApps, we have two definitions, ambiguous definitions. We don't believe in the dApps definition of Ethereum, because we don't believe in dApps running on blockchains. We want the dApps running on your mobile device, on the websites, on PCs, on cloud servers. We want the cloud drives, right? Because if you prefer Dropbox, you prefer OneDrive, I prefer a NAS storage on my smart router. Everyone has their own preference. Instead of the model of we have an Amazon cloud, Alibaba cloud, like a WeChat cloud, everybody commuting the social networks through those centralized clouds. We want to own, each one of us to own our own data. Yet, the game has exactly the same user experience, right? Same performance. So that we call dApps. So we're doing the blockchain with Neo, and also because we're building, on top of it, building a peer-to-peer network like eDonkey. Here's the author we should thank for, Jack, right? So we actually started 5 years ago. We have done peer-to-peer network. The reason we've done it, actually we have nothing better than what Jed have done.
So guys, I'll stop it there because that was the one little extract I wanted to focus on, and that's because this is where it really is a game changer. It's not going to run its dApps on the blockchain. So whilst Elastos is going to use Neo, and it's going to have a Neo contract association, and it's going to absolutely benefit and be mutually exclusive and beneficial, Elastos as an operating system is not going to run dApps on the blockchain, on a blockchain. It is going to run it through cloud mechanisms, through cloud software, cloud technology. And that's also where Jed and his peer-to-peer network involvement is very important, because the peer-to-peer network is building on top and into the Elastos framework. So you've got Neo, the blockchain, then you've got the distinction with Elastos working to do it, utilizing separate, sending forth information and allowing for dApp capacity, not on blockchain but on cloud. So the yuan, the Chinese word for cloud, has never been more important. And if you look really deep, and that's what part 2 of all of this is going to be about, when I look deep into where all this cloud research is going, who's been doing it, and how far has it actually gone. But right now, that one little bit there that you heard Chen say is the most important part, because it separates it from Ethereum, and it's going to make it a game changer. And unless Ethereum can do something like that in the future, it is going to really change the game. So let's look at all the different key points of what was raised in the Elastos presentation by Chen Rong. When you think of Elastos, think of things like it is a blockchain-driven internet, and think of it as, with the word yuan, think of it as cloud, because it's the cloud tech that's the really big thing in relation to peer-to-peer networks. Those two things down into Neo is really going to make something amazing. So let's look at the fundamentals here. Let's look at what we need to talk about. So here, what is it again? Again, it's the world's first internet operating system that uses the internet as the base layer infrastructure rather than an application. The Elastos approach emphasizes that network communications should be separated from application computing, and that's what we're talking about. This separation of application computing, which they're doing, separated from network communication. and prohibits application programs from direct access to the network. Again, we're talking about stopping that malware and virus issue by not running on the internet. So this is really cool. It stops the things like DDoS attacks and other things that Chen was mentioning. Elastos is an open source system and has received sponsorship from over 200 million, that's right, RMB, from the Foxconn group and also from other groups. And I suspect that Microsoft is involved, and I'll explain why, but again, there's lots of evidence to suggest that that is the case. But there's also other big investors in China as well, which I'm going to be talking about in part 2. So look more into Foxconn and you'll understand just how big they are in terms of enterprise and financial backing. Elastos developed for many years, so 17 years ago, and it has the appropriate market window. Obviously now with the sea of changes in the air for blockchain, because we've already seen huge movements right now. So what's it all about? With the help of Elastos, massive decentralized apps and dApps and apps can be safely implemented with accurate confirmation and contract transfer using blockchains. Various works, contracts, ideas, and intellectual properties in digital form can be assets in the digital world. Elastos creates a brand new smart economic zone on the traditional internet. And what is really important is, well, firstly, they're going to be launching their mainnet and their token in late December. So that's called Ella. But what's also important to recognize here is that essentially their whole infrastructure itself is going to cater for a multitude of different cloud technologies and thus businesses, because it's utilizing something that hasn't been seen before to access applications and to support applications and to allow those applications to intercommunicate peer-to-peer. That's a really, really powerful thing that Elastos is able to do. So really exciting things coming. So more on the San Fran Unpack, the Android itself has been translated into C++, and the reason for that is nothing to do with efficiency, but everything to do with the security. And that's where ontology is really important, guys. If you're new to this channel, or if you're new to the overall NEO space, ontology is a network, a separate entity of trust. It is a governance system, a mapping grid of trust and distributed data. That is the house of safety, the house of trust. That is working in juxtaposition or in direct alignment with NEO. And this is where Elastos is also going to relate to ontology, because the trust mechanisms are crucial because they're centralized trust through the Elastos design. You don't have to go out and get trust affirmed on the blockchain. You don't have to get it through websites. You don't have to get it through whatever external data mechanism. It's all done internally through a centralized modality, through centralized trust. And that is freaking awesome, because that allows for Elastos to move away from the traditional model of appending to the blockchain, like Ethereum does, and stretching it right out into the cloud, because they have this trust mechanism built into the framework of NEO, which is freaking amazing. So this means that the internet is not required, but a smart router technology called Reflections, which you should look into more, allows for peer-to-peer mobile communications. So this is where the Stellar link comes in. Stellar is going to be working with Elastos to have a peer-to-peer network, whereby the cloud, again, it controls the applications, it allows for all of that to flourish and function, and then the trust comes in, supported by NEO, and most importantly, then the peer-to-peer network really makes it exchangeable, makes it interactive, makes it robust, and it's going to set it apart from the Ethereum. It's going to make it something of a game changer for the overall space. Again, it prevents virus attack because it's not on the internet itself. And this is an open source project that will run on NEO as a platform, as a blockchain provision. Its public testing and release is in the end of December. It's been in the making, Elastos has, for 17 years, which is incredible. It's an incredibly longitudinal project that's now coming to the point where within the map of a year, I heard Chen say that it should be operational in December of 2018 in terms of being, a viable operating system whereby the button is essentially switched on. Decentralized IDs will be issued to all of the digital assets, websites, virtual machines, and browsers. So again, that's where ontology will be involved, and it's important for you guys to know just how important the virtual machine is, because the virtual machine is going to be built on into Elastos. They're going to be built within the system, and they are key to allowing for the overall Elastos operating system to function in the way they want through the cloud. And again, those decentralized IDs are going to be directly correlated with ontology because that's what their premise is about. It's about providing a map for identification, and that will work in direct consort with Neo and obviously with Elastos now because they are becoming a Neo contract. So then the next points are Elastos is building the virtual machines, it's building the virtual browsers, it's building the virtual websites, and it's also building digital contents. So why are they doing all of that? The reason is they want to make everything trackable, because if you haven't got trackability, you haven't got trust. If you haven't got centrality, you haven't got a system whereby you can basically essentially on-sell an operating system, just like Microsoft, except it's going to be running based on cloud. And that is going to be something that's revolutionary because underneath that you've got blockchain tech. And that, again, is very different to the centralized mechanisms of Microsoft. So massive points here. Never forget this, as Chen has said. Unlike Ethereum, dApps using Elastos will not run on the blockchain. Rather, they will run on the Elastos framework. They will run on the Elastos operating system that runs through the cloud technology. So dApps will run on mobiles, PCs, cloud servers, and websites. But how will this work? Well, basically dApps will run on the cloud technology, as we said. And if you look into it, there's so many major companies that are actually representing that capacity and that ability to support Elastos. And the clouds, which are, one example is the Ali cloud, with their respective trust systems will be used for dApps, not blockchains. And guys, I want to just mention there, because this is part of part 2, if you understand what BAT is, huge. BAT is Baidu, it is Alibaba, and it is Tencent. I'll be talking about all of those interconnections in part 2, but they certainly, as just one example, are looking at cloud technology in a very big way. So Neo provides Elastos with the blockchain technology. Elastos provides with BAT with the cloud and operating system technology, and then BAT takes that out into the world. How Stellar fits in is it facilitates in the interim between BAT and Elastos, in that it's got a peer-to-peer network system that in the presentation they called Idanti, and with that they're going to spread forth the information, the capacity, the decentralization, and most importantly access to information around the globe. Very cool. So some other key points is with regard to the cloud is that the cloud, with that functionality, it means that all things can happen. For example, shared videos, shared ideas, shared research, shared games, pictures, you can share whatever really. So in this respect, there's absolutely no reason why companies like Facebook couldn't become usable through an Elastos operating system. There's no reason why YouTube couldn't be utilized in this way, but it's going to have to be working and operating through Elastos, and that's where the benefits of Neo and Elastos come in. So here's the Neo and Stellar links. 1, Neo is the blockchain platform. Check, bottom layer. 2, Stellar is the peer-to-peer network working above and into Elastos. Idanti, I can't really understand what Chen was saying because we need to know more, but that's certainly a word he referenced when he was talking directly to Jed, and Jed is the one who built obviously Stellar and Ripple, and he again is linked up for this peer-to-peer network, and Chen mentioned they've been working on this for about 5 years. So it's been quite a serious project that they've been doing. This will make this whole overall architecture will make Elastos and Neo collectively the largest open source blockchain based application service in the world. So Neo will be the house of that, being the platform, and this will be the largest in the world in terms of what it's going to do, and it's going to be known as Web3 or the smart web. And there are other people who want to benefit by being part of that cloud technology as well. So smart web equals instant applications because they don't have to go through the other third parties. It's directly from the Elastos network straight out into the instant applications and to places like mobiles, for example. The key is the virtual machines that they'll be running on top. This gives the trust, and it relates again back to ontology as well. Next generation of browsers also. So basically Chrome source codes are linked with peer-to-peer networks that Jed will represent. There are no IP addresses anymore at all, which is freaking amazing given that just how many and how mammoth that is. The overall website system is premised on IP addresses, and that is going to change in the Elastos space. That's a revolutionary component in itself. So guys, what I wanted to do is just quickly reference some other key information I got from the announcement section. I won't talk at length because I don't want to make this video too long, but I will say that in part 2 I'll go into much more detail with a lot of the research I've been doing in the last couple of days that shows you very serious connections between Elastos, Neo, and much greater, much more powerful enterprise representation, and even some controversial and questionable links with government sources and government sectors. So, but the primary focus will be on the enterprise. So things like Foxconn, for example, they are the big backers behind Elastos. If you look into them, they are a very, very big fintech company. And look further into it as well, and you'll notice that the Chinese government has supported Elastos. Right up until the ICO ban, they were one of the major backers and major funders. So when you factor that in, here you have the Chinese government backing Elastos, you have Foxconn backing Elastos, and that's going on to Neo. You've seen a lot of interconnections already with on-chain and government links. I certainly have read a lot of them as well. But what's important to recognize is that this project, Elastos, is taken very seriously, not just by Neo, but by the blockchain industry in China and obviously enterprise markets, enterprise companies, and even right to the point of certain government sectors. So what I might do is I'll just let you know that I've read through some of this other information. I'll provide you with this PowerPoint so you can go and check it all out. A lot of this stuff came from the announcements information, but I guess what I want to do is just stop here and focus solely on that key point of distinguishing what Elastos is in comparison to Ethereum. It is not going to run applications or dApps on the blockchain. It's going to be running on Yun, on the clouds, on cloud technology. That is going to make it global. It's going to make it much more robust. It's going to make Neo an incredibly powerful platform as well, because Elastos is going to be a very significant, very game-changing, very revolutionary technology that's going to empower people to reconceptualize exactly how information can be shared, distributed, and utilized, because it will be completely decentralized, it will be peer-to-peer, and it will be running on the blockchain. So guys, that's part 1. Hope it's been helpful. I hope you have a better understanding of Elastos, and very soon I'll do part 2, but until then, it's BlockchainBrad signing out. Thank you.